Research shows that 3/4 of young people are reporting worry about climate change, and not all of them have a mental health disorder. We also see climate change anxiety contributing to mental health issues in adolescents particularly.
According to the report, suicide rates for people between the ages of 10 and 24 rose 60% since 2011, and that amounts to 11 deaths by suicide per every 100,000 people in that age range.
These are the realities of youth in America today. This is why our comrade Stanton Young, who you were about to hear, did a series of interviews with comrades in the RCA who joined in high school or younger. In this episode, you'll hear from this generation of youth who, in the face of the horrors of capitalism...
What that just said, hang on, sorry. I just spit into a cough drop, obviously, but hang on. What that said was, the revolutionary communists of America are recruiting kids in high school. I'm not suggesting that every kid in high school is a communist. I'm not suggesting there are no conservative kids. What I am saying is that we have an entire generation of kids that has been being taught anti-capitalist education since they were 5 years old in ways that they do not understand, because it is integrated into every part of their curriculum. Even kids that you think are conservative or that are not overtly far leftist, they still say things that are anti-capitalist because they've been taught it from the time they're 5 years old, integrated into their entire education. It's not their fault. They've been indoctrinated into a system that's been taken over by a cult. But I want people to hear this, that the actual communists, the actual socialists, are recruiting kids in high school. Probably earlier if they can.
Chose revolutionary optimism over despair and doomerism.
Young people today have never known what it's like to live under a booming capitalism. They've never experienced anything like the post-war boom. They've only witnessed decay, war, and crisis. A 16-year-old today was born in 2008, the year of the Great Recession. Since then, they've experienced the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, the rise of the Islamic State, civil wars in Libya and Syria, mass shootings and mass shooter drills in school, the election of Donald Trump. The pandemic started when they entered high school. Then there was the disaster that was leaving Afghanistan, then the Ukraine war, then the Israeli invasions of Gaza, and now Lebanon. Now their families are struggling with inflation and the cost of living crisis. The US in recent years has seen spikes in rates of child labor and child labor violations. According to the Washington Post, in 2023, teens ages 16 to 19 were working or looking for work at the highest annual rate since 2009. More than 3/4 of child labor violations in the first 9 months of 2023 were in food service. The American Bar Association said that the recent rise of children at work is due to the increase in inflation and the cost of living. In the United States, the lessening of state protective laws and the use of migrant children. Put simply, capitalism's crises are forcing young people to work longer and harder to help their families. Recently, our comrades in Philadelphia were tabling and met some high schoolers who told them about the horrible prison-like conditions at their school. Fear of violence has forced the school system to increase security, who now prohibit students from bringing in outside food. This means that the students have to buy their lunch from the school, which on top of being unhealthy and disgusting, is rising in price due to inflation. Capitalism is destroying childhood. These are the conditions that are forcing young people to truly question the capitalist system. Millions of them are looking for an alternative and are finding communism. But it's not enough to be a communist. You have to get organized.
Capitalism is destroying childhood. Let's just think about that for a second. What is the communist or socialist answer to capitalism destroying childhood? And by the way, guys, when I use the terms communist, socialist, or Marxist, I'm using them relatively interchangeably. That's not to say there aren't nuances, but we just, to make it simple, think of them as the same. What is their solution to capitalism destroying childhood? They think that capitalism creates all problems in the world. Everything comes back to that. Capitalism is defined as private property ownership. That means your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, your ability to own an apartment rental, private business, intellectual property. Parental rights are considered to be a form of capitalism. That's a pretty big hint. Individual liberties are considered to be a form of capitalism. So what is their solution? This is why they want to eliminate the nuclear family. The nuclear family is the production engine of capitalism. The nuclear family reproduces capitalist values in young people. That's social reproduction theory. Okay? Social reproduction theory says social systems will reproduce themselves until they're disrupted. The nuclear family reproduces capitalist values by raising kids in a capitalist world. This is why they want to abolish the nuclear family, queer the nuclear family. Exactly. Capitalism created the nuclear family. They want capitalism dismantled and destroyed. They do want that. Abolishing private, well, that's not exactly productive. Collective care and community, family of choice, exactly. So when you guys are seeing attacks on parental rights specifically in the public schools, you have to remember that all of this is happening for a reason. It's not happening because they want the state to be your family. That's not what it is. It's not happening. They want you to be beholden to Big Brother before you're beholden to your blood. That's not what it is. We have to distinguish between conservative bullshit talking points because they don't understand the left and reality. And reality is that the left believes that capitalism, private property ownership created the nuclear family in the first place. The nuclear family is a way to pass generational wealth down through different people. Generational wealth creates hierarchies because it means some people have more resources than others. There's also things relating to healthcare with the nuclear family and that you have access to the resources that your nuclear family has access to. There's also things related to they believe that parental rights make children slaves to their parents. So there's lots of, they believe that the nuclear family, the biggest thing, the nuclear family is the reproduction mechanism of capitalism because it raises kids to have capitalist values, whether or not people are aware of it. There's a lot of different factors that are in play here, but we need to be very specific about what's going on. The reason they say that capitalism destroys childhood is because capitalism creates all problems in the world. And the reason they focus on young people and parental rights is because they believe that they need to abolish the nuclear family in order to abolish capitalism, because without the nuclear family, there is no reproductive mechanism of capitalism. Does everyone understand? I want to do a quick pause. Does everyone understand what I just explained, or do you have questions? If you have questions, it's okay to ask them. Especially if you're new. We love questions from new people. But if you don't have questions, we're going to move on.